What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush, Let's Talk Jets. Hope everybody had an excellent weekend. Today, Aaron Glenn met me at the owners' meetings. A lot of interesting things came out of it. I understand that this is only March, and the words don't matter now. It's all about winning in September. But when you have a full regime change, new general manager, new head coach, you kind of want to understand what their mindset is in free agency, how they go through the draft, how they develop their roster, how they evaluate players in general. So he shared a lot of stuff there, which I think is newsworthy. The first thing is they asked him about the offseason so far, his thoughts on the players they acquired, and how nothing's been flashy, no big press conferences, no gaudy contracts. And he's like, listen, we're trying to win. You don't win an offseason, first of all, but they want to win they want to work in silence. There's no need for all that distractions. It's like a hard-nosed blue-collar team that's all about just getting results, and he's very driven to get that done. He talked about a lot of players that they signed, from Stevens to Cisco, and people are trying to question their fit. And he's like, when he talked about the players they brought in, you could see like his scouting background came in where it wasn't coach speak. Like, hey, listen, he broke down the film. He talked to the player. He knows that he has like an idea of what he wants for his defense, and he thinks the player fits in that mold. And it was really cool to see where, like, all right, it gives you confidence. Like, all right, he knows what he's doing. Now, whether he got the right player or not, we have no idea. But it's like he's very hands-on and very aggressive. They talked about, you're a defensive-minded coach. How do you feel about having a first-time coordinator who hasn't called plays before? And he put Rich Cimini right on full blast. Like, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. Tanner Engstrand has been a coordinator before, just not on the NFL level. Like, don't discount my staff. He fully backed his staff big time there, which was impressive. But he also said he's been preparing to be a head coach for the last 6 or 7 years. So he's like, I understand that as a defensive-minded coach, I need to learn offense, not how to stop it, how to build it. And he's worked on that. He had to learn about special teams. So he's like, I'm a well-rounded guy, and you will see my blueprint on every facet of the team. Like, everybody said, like, Sal was a CEO type head coach, and we knew he wasn't. Glenn, as of now, is coming off a guy like, listen, you will feel my pulse everywhere on this team, which was refreshing. Then he talked about the young players, where you're going for a lot of young players, and he put a premium on the coaching staff. Like, listen, we want young guys that have like they're fast, they're quick, all this, but they're moldable. That we can teach them to play the way that we want them to play. They have, like, we talked about play like a Jet in the past. Well, Glenn has his vision for how he wants his players to play. You figure they're much more coachable when they're younger. They haven't learned bad habits or whatever else, and you can do that. So that was really interesting. Also about keeping your own players, where talked about Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, and he went into detail about it. And the one thing I liked about Glenn, he really portrayed, like, listen, I generally don't care about what happened here last year. If Garrett was frustrated last year and underutilized or whatever, I don't care. I've had many conversations with him. It's a clean slate. I'm worried about day one with us and going forward. And I want to keep good players. He talked about Sauce Gardner, and people are like, well, Sauce had a down year. And he's like, listen, nobody is going to have a 15-year all-pro career year every year. Like, you can't be perfect every year and play at the same level. You're going to have tail-offs. You're going to do that. It's just human nature. And he kind of said about his own career. But he's like, I understand what Sauce can do. I'll work him to get back to where he belongs. And he had that commitment to it. So he seemed really prepared about that. I'm trying to think what else he talked about that. It was like, the competition, where they talked about Justin Fields. I liked his explanation about Justin Fields as well, where he talked about, everybody talks about his legs, how mobile he is. He goes, I wanted to be a good quarterback. He did a lot of really good things at Ohio State, throwing the ball, going through progressions. Like, don't discount this kid. We're going to put him in a position to be a very good passing quarterback and quarterback in general. But he's like, you have to put out a depth chart. He's number one now. But the depth chart's in pencil. If somebody beats him out, that guy plays. And that applies to the entire roster, where, in the past, we've seen with the Jets, with the last couple coaches, where there was clearly young guys that should have been playing over veteran guys, and they weren't because of the contract and the politics. And Coach Glenn's like, listen, man, if you're a rookie and you put in the time, you put in the hard work, and you follow our rules, you're going to get opportunities to play, period. Talked about, like, Josh Reynolds being a very good blocker. Talked about Alan Lazard. Like, listen, if you commit to the blocking game, and commit to your blocking, you're going to get chances in the passing game. But you got to be a well-rounded player, and you got to be a team player. If you do the right thing, you get the opportunities. If you don't do the right thing, you're going to sit. I also think the way that they talked about the quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Tyrod, that I can't see the Jets taking quarterback in the first 3 rounds. I can't. I generally don't think so. You take a guy in the 4th round or later, have them be the project, and be in a best-case scenario where, like, anybody drafted that late, you're sitting and watching 2 veterans go at it and just basically learning the NFL. Other than that, I don't think that's it. I walked away feeling like, okay, the Jets are being run like a professional organization. No nonsense. and you just think that I think that he's going to resonate with the players. He said he talked to all his players. He wants them to be on the one-on-one. He talks about every free agent player. He talks about their mindset, what they are. Like I understand where you're coming from. This is what I want you to do here. So I just got a good feeling about it, man. Like I'm really encouraged. I'm curious about the draft. And I think I'm not saying this team's going playoffs, nothing like that. And he talked about that as well. He's like, phase one of the team conditioning where they all meet up and start working out. He's like, we're not talking about playoffs in phase one of when we're working out and working on strength and conditioning. We're talking about making you the best physically, in the best shape you could possibly be as you prepare to play in our defense. And the defense and the offense is going to be based on what the accumulation of talent was. And that was really important as well, where he said, everybody's assuming there's going to be one style of defense because of Steve Wilkes' background and Aaron Glenn's background. He's like, we're going to go through all the draft and the final stage of free agency. We're going to go in the room and say, listen, these are all the pieces we have. What's our puzzle? What's the best scheme for this team to run this year? And we make adjustments. Same thing on offense. Like, don't assume that you know what we're going to do, because we don't really know the final scheme now until we know what playmakers we have on both sides of the ball, which is a great answer. Like even now as Jet fans and all these shows, they're going to be ground and pound and defense is going to blitz a lot. And he's like, listen, there's nothing on black right now saying we're definitely going to do this. It's all work in progress, because we may get things may happen that we may have to adjust things. And that's the one thing I think in the past where some of the Jets coaches kind of pigeonholed themselves into certain schemes or plans, and they didn't adjust, and the results obviously didn't follow them. So you want to make sure you're always flexible and versatile, so as things change, you change and evolve, and you become a better team. So a lot to digest here. Like I said, I walked away impressed. I like the way he handles himself. He can be a little rough. He can be a little net. Like he has some fire back to me. He takes no bullshit from nobody, which is fine. This team needs that because they've been pushed around for way too long, on and off the field. I think he's going to change that, man. I think this is going to be a very physical team, a nasty team, and I think they're going to be a team that Jet fans will be proud of. Talk to you later.